I'm watching a lot of Dynasty for a book I'm writing. Let's go. Blake makes a deal with a gangster, Sammy Jo sneaks into Steven's bed, and Alexis has got a gun. Welcome to Dynasty. Episode 6, Series 2, and this episode opens with Blake packing for a business trip to Las Vegas. So Fallon's walking down the corridor and she overhears Blake talking to Krystal, and she does the pause, the lean towards the door, the far away listening look. People, we have that cornerstone of soap opera acting. We just had the eavesdrop. Along with the flashback and the close-up stare, eavesdropping is a cornerstone of soap opera acting, and Fallon does it well. So whilst Fallon is listening in, let's check out that haircut. I think it was in the episode before, but with the whole little Dottie Dimples outfit, we didn't really get to see it. And it seems to be sort of some spin on a mullet. It's kind of like an outgrown clute. You know, really short here, but she's let the mullety party at the back bit grow extra long. I feel like I should hate it, but actually I quite like it. I think it suits her. I don't know why it shouldn't work. It's this short thing here and this long thing here. Maybe it's because I grew up in, you know, I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, so the whole shaggy 2-layer thing is just in my DNA. Maybe that's what it is, but it kind of works. So cut to Nick back at his cabin. His sister's just flown in and she's begging him to come home, saying, you've been here for 3 months and you're worrying me, your behavior is worrying me. I have to say, sister of Nick, his behavior is worrying everyone. But we finally find out what's going on. So we know that Nick's brother died under some curious circumstances, and for some reason he holds Blake accountable. Now we get the answer to our question, what happened? And Nick decides to go big. I don't think I even have words for what Dr. Nick does now.
For God's sake, this man could have kept him alive from 7,000 miles away with one lousy phone call. One lousy phone call. He could have told him to let Johnny live. He has the connections. He knew the right people.
I like the clap of thunder that happens after Dr. Nick says he wants to make Blake suffer.
I want to see Blake Harrington suffer.
A nice little extra bit of menace. Sammy Jo wakes up after a nightmare and the storm is raging outside and she feels all frightened. So her instinct is to seek out Steven's bedroom and climb into bed with him. The next morning, Alexis spots them together in Steven's bed and presumes that the chat is just post-coital niceties and is not impressed. Two things I want to talk about. That's four. Two things I want to talk about. Where Jeff owns the feathered 80s haircut in Dynasty, there's a bit of competition for the flick. We have to say that Sammy Jo and Steven do it pretty well. This was the aim of the 80s, a flick that once in position wouldn't collapse on you. And whilst these two are really very good examples, they sit at the seat of the Queen. Let's take a moment to talk about Alexis's makeup. Alexis's makeup is weaponized. In fact, I think she just used those brushes that were underneath her arm to apply her makeup. None of your natural look BB cream inner glow skin. This is makeup like you mean it. Her makeup is like her shoulder pads. It's nothing to do with prettiness. It's all about armor. She wears blusher like it's war paint, like Boadicea wore woad going into battle. And we know that Alexis is always battle ready. 2 strong, bold stripes on her cheeks. If you want to know how to do makeup like Alexis, there's a brilliant tutorial on YouTube. It's done by Pixie Woo. I'll put the link below. It's really good. One of my favourite features of Alexis's makeup is the brown lip liner, and she wears it from the corner of her lips here all the way to the top of the Cupid's bow, but not in the middle. Nothing here. Wonder why? Does that open things up? I suppose dark retracts, what comes forward. Anyway, I'm sure there's science behind it. I don't know what it is, but it's quite intriguing. I don't see anyone doing that now. Alexis confronts Krystal about Sammy Jo being in Steven's room and just insults Krystal and insults Sammy Jo. She basically accuses Sammy Jo and Krystal of being commoners. Krystal, don't get upset about being called a commoner. We're all commoners as far as Alexis is concerned. Unless you are in fact Alexis, or you came out of Alexis's womb As far as she's concerned, you're a commoner. Krystal fights her corner and delivers the news that there will be one more commoner in the family. How Alexis didn't know she was pregnant already, I don't know. And Alexis's response is to take a long, slow drag on that cigarette and give a dragon-level exhale and let the ash drop to the floor. So Blake needs to pay back a loan he got from Cecil Colby. So he's flown off to Las Vegas to make a deal with Rhinewood Industries. He's going to sell 45% of his football team for $9 million so he can pay back Cecil. So he's supposed to meet with somebody called Rhinewood. Instead, he gets a henchman by the name of Ray Bonning. Bonning has a voice so gravelly you can make concrete with it.
Do you want to talk about 100% purchase, Mr. Carrington?
Earlier in the episode, Fallon had appeared onto her father's jet she had stowed away because...
What is so foolish about a daughter trying to help her father when he needs it?
Now Fallon helping, this is a bit of a new thing. What does that look like? She dons an 80s power suit, white tights, and gives out a few little tasty bon mots.
Tell me something, Mr. Bonning. Your clothes are terribly Neiman Marcus, but who makes your shoulder holsters? Gucci?
On the jet home, Blake is high from the business deal, so is giving Fallon some fatherly advice. And Fallon basically complains that Jeff is super boring and she's just not interested, and says, why couldn't I have married a man like you? And in a rare moment of self-awareness, Blake says this.
Honey, you don't know how lucky you are. You've never lived with me as a husband. If you did, you'd change your pretty mind very quickly indeed.
Back at the Carrington mansion, Claudia and Nick are at the stables, at the estate stables, and going out for a bit of horse riding. We know that Claudia is feeling stronger because her hair is poofier. And in 80s soap opera lingo, the flatter your hair, the more depressed you are. So we've got a nice little poof going on, almost a bit of a crystally fringe. Dr. Nick attempts an English accent that is this side of Dick Van Dyke's Maori Poppins.
Toscani and Blaisdell off to the hounds or the hedges or whatever.
We get a serious 80s moment with Sammy Jo in her roller skates. She seems to be trying not to fall down rather than skate, but she seems happy. I like the way she's carrying her shoes as if she might have to abandon this at any moment. Alexis is skeet shooting and she's wearing so much red, she is practically Carrie at the prom. From the beret to the nails to the lips to the mutton sleeve sweater, the scarf, the red tartan. She's a beacon of danger. I mean, if any animal in nature was covered in this much red, nothing would go near it. With Alexis wrapped in this much red, you know somebody's in trouble. Her first victim is Stephen, who she tries to forcibly stuff back into the closet. Although you get the feeling that it isn't motivated by any sense of him being gay is wrong, rather that him being gay is going to lose him his inheritance, and she is not having that. Alexis is determined that Stephen is going to get his inheritance. Happiness and authentic life be damned. Money trumps everything. As you can imagine, this conversation didn't go very well, and I love Alexis's expression when she realizes that. Alexis's second victim comes into view while she's cleaning her gun. All sweeping music, we see Krystal on her horse trotting by. Alexis looks from Krystal to her gun to her bullets. She nips behind a tree and lets off a shot, startling the horse, who rears up. Krystal falls to the ground, but her foot is stuck in the reins. So as the horse goes belting off, she's being dragged along the ground. Alexis just watches. She doesn't smile, she doesn't do anything, she just watches as the horse and Krystal disappear. Over at Colby Co, Jeff is packing up his desk because he's, so disgusted about Blake being cut out of the deal. He's leaving his family business. And creaky face Uncle Cecil comes in to try and convince him to stay. And he's really feeling it because, as we know, his face doesn't move very much. But his lower lip is really animated and we get an eyebrow raise.
The one who ought to be taking over this empire. And it is an empire, Jeff. After I retire, is that the right thing?
This is full tilt Cecil Colby. But Jeff stands his ground, but he makes this really strange threat. He goes all third person and he says something along the lines of, "Your ex-puppet is busy, leave him alone please." It's pretty difficult to make a puppet metaphor sound menacing.
You might get caught in a few of the strings. It could be dangerous.
Claudia's therapy on horseback continues until she's just had enough and canters off, leaving Dr. Nick to discover Krystal's horse without Krystal. So he goes off hunting for her and finds her unconscious in a meadow. So this is the second Carrington that he's rescued. First, there was Stephen in the pool, and now Krystal in a meadow. So he gets her back to the house. While Krystal is in bed in shock, but seemingly okay, Alexis arrives at the Carrington mansion, all sweetness and light, no longer in red by the way, bearing the gift of a silver porringer. And when she's told that Krystal can't see her, she says,
I see. Well, be sure to let me know how she is when you get word. I really do care.
And judging by the look that Dr. Nick and Joseph exchange, no one is convinced. Blake is busy throwing $9 million in Cecil's face, so doesn't know what's happened to Krystal. Fallon is finally back at the Carrington mansion, and Jeff has no idea where she's been. She left a note but just said, you know, I'm away, didn't tell him where. So he thinks she's been off doing the naughty with someone. And Jeff is trying to pull all the power from his Wonder Woman pose to get answers. You know, it's Fallon, he's not getting any. And when Fallon says, "Who are you to question me?" he plants a smacker on her lips and before storming off says,
All right. Two can play at the charade.
incensed at not getting the last word, Fallon storms out into the hallway, even though she's only wearing a towel, and not finding Jeff, takes out her frustration on Dr. Nick.
What kind of a shrink are you exactly? I mean, you seem to be circulating all over the second floor of this house.
Now Nick is completely unfazed by this, and they have a bit of banter back and forth, and with Dr. Nick being completely nonplussed about her insult or her near nakedness, Fallon decides she fancies the pants off him and breaks into his cabin, and we have a full-on 80s saxophone-fueled seduction scene. When Blake finally hears that Krystal has been in an accident, he rushes back to the Carrington mansion, and while Krystal is trying to convince him that everything is okay, she clasps her stomach, she scrunches her face. We all know what's happening. Linda Evans gives it her all in the ambulance scene. Poor Krystal.
I knew we weren't that ugly. I knew it.